Welcome, everybody. How are you today? Kari and I are sitting here at the Urban Farm. Today we are here, and we're going to talk about the Microfarm project.
Yeah, so this is a tour of the Microfarm project today, but this isn't just about my farm. This is about you. So please post the name of your farm and where it's located if you have a farm. And if you don't already have a farm, we're going to give you some tips today for starting your own farm and things to explore and things to think about as you consider putting together your own urban farm. And post your questions if you have them.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I was going to say also post your questions. We'll be taking questions throughout.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of slides. We actually have two presentations.
Two
together. So we're going to go through the first few slides rather quickly. They are just some pictures of my farm, so you can get an idea of what it looks like.
Perfect.
And then we're going to look at some of the reasons why we homestead, why we have an urban farm, and you'll probably resonate with some of those reasons since you're on this call today. When we first got started farming, we really didn't have anybody to help us and give us a whole lot of advice, and we made a lot of mistakes. But we had a lot of fun along the way, so it really didn't matter. But I do want to share with you some of the things that we have learned so that you can maybe avoid some of the things that cost us time and money and headache, and just really be able to jump in and have a whole lot of fun and a whole lot of productivity happening on your urban farm. So we live in North Phoenix in just a regular old middle-class neighborhood. Our home is in a cul-de-sac right off of a busy street, and so you can see our home from the busy street. And so in our front yard, I put 9 garden beds, and the reason that we put them out there was because we wanted people to see gardening and urban farming in action, and also we wanted to share it with friends and neighbors. And so over the past few years, we've had about 30 people who have come and spent lengths of time gardening with us. So over a period of months, they would come and we give them their own garden bed to use, and we provide the water, and they grow as much as they want in those garden beds for however long they want. And it's been a really fun and rewarding experience for us and for the people that are involved. Here's a picture taken during the summertime when things weren't growing very well here in Phoenix because, it's 115 degrees many days in the middle of the summer. And so, but I took this picture so that you could get an idea of the layout that we have out in our front yard. And there's a picture of me making a goofy face, cutting some basil and some of the things that are growing in the front yard. And our garden club I mentioned here takes care of these beds now, and they're a group of really wonderful ladies who I've enjoyed getting to know, and we garden together every Monday night. Then as you move into our backyard, our home is on a cul-de-sac, like I mentioned, and we have a sort of a pie-shaped lot. So the front yard is pretty small, and most of the property is located in the backyard, and we have a large backyard. These are a couple of wicking beds that I am growing some bananas and other plants in. Now, a wicking bed is a garden that waters from below, so you fill the bottom of the tank with using a tube to send the water down to the bottom, and the plants soak the moisture up from the bottom. And it's a great water-saving way to garden, very nice for Phoenix. Then we have some garden beds in the backyard. We've got a small orchard that's watered with a laundry-to-landscape system. So when we wash our laundry, the water goes from the laundry system out to our orchard in the backyard. And we also have some raised beds back there. This is what the raised beds looked like a few months ago when we were first starting to plant them out. Now, in this area of the garden, we used to house goats, but now we have converted it to garden beds. This is a lasagna garden, also called a sheet mulching garden or composting in place. So we just compost right in that garden bed, and then put some soil on the top and grow right in it, so don't have to move compost around. We also have some turkeys in this backyard. These are heritage breed turkeys. They're called blue palms or slate palms. And the girl in the picture is my daughter Christina, and she is feeding our tom turkey using a treadle feeder, which the bird has to actually step on a pedal to open the feeder, and that keeps the small wild birds from eating all of our turkey's food. There's Tom right there. This is a chicken tractor. Our daughter Christina likes to raise miniature breeds called bantams, and so we keep her small banty chickens separated from the rest of the flock for breeding purposes, and also because they are small and they can get picked on. So we keep them in this chicken tractor, and it's just a small coop that we can move around the yard. So we lift it up every few days and we move it a little bit so that they can have fresh grass, and it's really nice. They keep the grass mown pretty well for us if we move it around often enough. We have some pets in the backyard. We have Cactus, our dog. She's a livestock guardian dog, so she used to take care of our sheep and goats, but now she is just a pet because we don't have any more sheep and goats on the property at the moment. We also have some rabbits, and they are retired show rabbits. So they used to be prize winners, but now they just get to hang out in our backyard and enjoy the farm. We have lots of chickens. I believe we have about 20 of them, and they are so fun to have around. This is the chicken coop. All right, so there will be more pictures of our property as we go along, but I want to get into the meat of the presentation today. So why do we homestead? And as I'm talking about these things, I want you to think about some of the reasons that you homestead. And if I don't mention any of the reasons that you are thinking of, if you will post those in that question area, that would be fantastic. So we can see some of the other reasons that you may be considering starting an urban farm, starting a garden, raising some animals, or homesteading. And homesteading and urban farming are kind of interchangeable terms. So sometimes I'll say homesteading, sometimes I'll say urban farming. To me, they mean basically the same thing. And we do it because we wanted to grow and raise healthy and natural foods for our families. This is our children, a couple of our children when they were a bit smaller. We have 4 daughters, and they've all grown up in this lifestyle. We wanted to teach our children the source of food so that they know the value of it. You know, when you go to the grocery store and you lay down your money and just take the groceries home, you know, there is a monetary value to it, but you don't get the sense of all of the effort that goes into raising good food. And so we wanted our kids to have that experience, and we also wanted to experience it for ourselves and have a sense of responsibility for what we eat. We also homestead to save money on groceries and to create some food security. So when I grow my own food, we've gotten things down to a pretty good process now to where it doesn't cost us very much to grow. We have to pay for some water here in Phoenix. We absolutely have to supplemental water our gardens, and that is the biggest cost for us. But now that we know how to save seeds and we are getting pretty good at growing food, it doesn't cost us much, and it saves us a whole lot of money at the grocery store. And we have some food security because there's always some things preserved from the excess of our harvest on our pantry shelf. So that's a really big reason why we homestead. We also like to be good stewards of our property, the soil, and the resources that we have. So we want to have a garden that is ecologically sound and actually contributes back to the environment. We do that by composting. We do that by recycling a lot of things on our property and really being creative. Instead of just running and buying things, we think about how can we produce it, how can we make it. And it's not just a budget saver and great for the environment. It's also a lot of fun to get creative and figure out things.
Yeah, especially, when you have all that extra.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun to figure out how to do something with it.
Yes, it is.
Plus, then it lasts for months and months and months. We're still eating the kale that I dehydrated last spring.
Right, yeah. Sometimes you can have it for a really long time. You grow it once, you preserve it once, and then you've got it for a while.
Yeah. Here's what I tell people. The only place that there is lack
mm-hmm.
in the world is in our minds. Because when I look at nature in my yard, there's this level of abundance that lives in my yard
mm-hmm.
that is just mind-blowing.
Right, so if we can shift our mentality from getting everything we need from a store to looking around and seeing where it is already, where it's available to us, then that's fun, and you'll find that things can come to you in different ways. We also homestead to revive hospitality and to assist homesteaders and grow community.
Uh-huh.
So these are some pictures of some folks who came and helped us build the front garden beds. We got their help in building them, and they got to learn how to do it.
I love that. The old-fashioned barn raising. There you go.
Yeah. And we teach people how to do other homesteading activities, like make solar ovens and all the kind of creative stuff that we like to do. We share it with other people so that they can do it too.
Well, here's the thing about that. Once you learn it, so many of these things are so simple. Like building a solar oven, you would think it would be complicated. It's really simple.
Mm-hmm. And in fact, it's simpler even than the ones that we made here. It could just be a plastic bag wrapped around a black pot put out in the sun.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. But when I started teaching here at the Urban Farm 20-some years ago, I'd just have people in the living room.
Mm-hmm.
They would just come into the living room and we'd sit around in a circle and I shared with them. And so once you learn this stuff, I'm not talking to you, Kari, I'm talking to everybody out there. Once you learn this stuff, go out and share it.
Yeah, and I think it's a natural byproduct of learning it.
Yeah.
Yeah, people are going to find out.
Yes.
And then they're going to want to know.
They're going to want to know, yeah, exactly.
We homestead also just for the pure pleasure of it. It is so fun to connect with nature, to have the animals running around in the backyard, to just grow, to get our hands dirty together, and just enjoy being at the farm together. A little bit of the country right here in the city.
Yeah.
And, we just love our farm, but it's had its flaws. It's had its challenges. So this is the real meat of my presentation here, to share with you some of the things that we did wrong. Some of the mistakes.
Hold on. You did things wrong?
Yeah, we did. We did. We made some mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And, nothing that was a class 1 error that couldn't be undone.
Mm-hmm.
But we have had a lot of adjusting to do because when we first started our farm, we had no idea what we were doing.
Uh-huh.
And I am not a pre-planner. I'm kind of a spur-of-the-moment kind of person. Let's just do this. Yeah.
I wouldn't have guessed that about you, actually. I've been working with you now, for 3 years? I wouldn't have guessed that about you.
So, when I got interested in gardens, I just went out and started throwing stuff in containers and in the ground, and it all died because I hadn't done any pre-planning and thinking and learning beforehand. Yep. Then when I wanted chickens, I just went and got my chickens, and I got goats right away. And boy, we're going to get into some of the errors that I made there.
Goats from goat milk for goat milk?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so let's just jump in, and I'll just lay it all on the line here for you.
Oh, my gosh.
So we built our farm on the fly, no pun intended, with these turkeys here, who, by the way, turkeys fly. They can fly.
Yes, they can.
Yes. We didn't realize how high that a turkey could fly.
Mm.
We had turkeys on the roof. We had turkeys in the back alley.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, we still have a problem keeping our turkeys in because we don't have a covered pen. But
do they come back?
No, not unless you find them.
Oh, so once they get out, you have to go find them. Like a chicken will come back.
Yeah, turkey, not so much.
Smart?
They're not that smart. No. So So, I just decided I wanted turkeys. So a friend of mine had some baby turkeys, and I had this old tall rabbit hutch, and I went and grabbed the turkeys, and we threw them in that rabbit hutch.
Oh, wow, cool.
And that was great for about 10 minutes until they got too big for it, because turkeys grow very, very fast. They didn't realize how fast they would grow.
Yeah.
And then, we ended up with turkeys everywhere. These turkeys here on my patio table. So that turkey pen that was in the background here, you can see it behind the grill.
Oh, right.
That we ended up moving the turkeys to a taller, bigger pen, and we converted that area into a garden.
Oh, wow.
And around that same time, we already had the chickens, but we got some goats.
Mm.
So our home was on the Tour de Coops that year.
Oh, nice.
And we went to the dinner for all of the coop owners that happened beforehand. And the family that was hosting the dinner had goats, and they had 2 they wanted to sell.
Oh, my gosh.
So I claimed them. Then I went home and told my husband that I claimed them. And we went back down and got them the next day, and we put them in our chicken coop with our chickens. And lo and behold, they could get into the chicken coop through the little tiny door that the chickens go in and out.
All right.
So we actually had them out in the run, but they got into the coop, which means they were eating all of our chicken feed.
Oh.
And
is that necessarily a bad thing, though?
No, it's not really good for them.
Oh,
and,
got it.
And they'll
different feed.
They'll eat, different feed, and they'll eat a lot, and not let the chickens have any. So,
got it.
So we ended up dismantling that garden that we made out of the turkey pen, and a bunch of friends came over and helped us build a goat pen over there.
Oh.
So within just in the matter of a year, we went from turkey pen to all the work of installing a garden, to all the work of dismantling the garden to put in a goat pen.
Oh, wow.
So you can see that if I had thought about the elements that I wanted to include in my farm beforehand, we would have had a lot less effort. Now, you might argue we wouldn't have had all the fun we had doing all those projects, but but still, we could have saved a lot of effort. And we didn't know what livestock does to lawns. So after we got these goats, a friend of mine called me a few days before Christmas, and she says, "You'll never believe what my ex-husband gave my daughter for a Christmas present."
Oh, my gosh. Hold on, ex-husband?
Yes.
Uh-oh.
I said, "Well, I can't guess." "What is it?" She said, "Come over and see." So I went to my friend's house. Now, she lives in Phoenix on a very small lot with a very small backyard. She doesn't really have pets at all. And when I walk in the door, there is the cutest, most adorable little baby lamb in her living room.
You should look on my face. Really?
She didn't know what to do with it. And I didn't really either, because I didn't know about sheep. But I figured I had goats,
How big of a difference are there between sheep and goats?
And we were starting to make some friends in the urban farm community. And I said, well, I'll take her and I'll find somebody. But once I had her in my arms, I couldn't adopt her back out. So we ended up with Eleanor on our property. And Eleanor, the goats didn't like Eleanor. So then we decided we would get a friend for Eleanor. And so on Craigslist, I found this little ram, black belly ram, and his name's Oliver. And we brought him home, 2 tiny little sheep. So cute, playing with each other. And then at about 8 weeks, I learned that you have to separate males and females at 8 weeks, that young. So then we had to build pens. And they just got bigger. And I thought that maybe they would mow my lawn. But that sounds good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, my yard could look like Kentucky, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. No, that's not what happened. They destroyed my lawn. Completely. We moved them around. It didn't matter. They destroyed the lawn. And we found out we had to truck in a lot of feed because I hadn't thought about that really.
Oh, right.
You know, and it was not a very sustainable process from both an environmental standpoint, I would say, and a economic standpoint.
Right.
So knowing what I know now, we after we got these sheep, we learned a lot. We learned that we should grow some moringa trees here for fodder.
Oh, they like fodder.
Yeah,
like
the sheep and the goats will eat that for fodder.
I wonder if chickens would eat that.
Yes, chickens will eat that too.
Yeah.
We also learned how to grow fodder, which I'll show you a picture of here in a few minutes.
Oh, please, yes. I want to learn from that because I'm looking to see how to do that for myself here at the Urban Farm.
Yeah, and so we learned some ways to make it more sustainable after the fact. But boy, I wish I'd known it beforehand because we could have gotten a whole lot easier start. Okay, now, my slides are not advancing. Oh, you know why? We're at the end of the first slide presentation.
Oh, well, there you go.
Okay, time to shift gears.
It's an easy shift. There we go.
Here we are.
Yay.
Okay, so another thing that we didn't do is we didn't stack functions. Now, if you've never heard that term before, be prepared to be enlightened because this really changed things on our property.
This is a new term for you, too, because you're in the middle of a permaculture design course.
I'm in the permaculture design course, yes. And this is a permaculture principle. And so when you're designing a property, you want to think about stacking functions. So what does that mean? I'll give my definition, and Greg, if you give your definition, because you might have a little different take on it.
Okay, cool. It's permaculture.
Yeah, for me, it's thinking about what everything needs and what everything does, and putting those elements together and making sure that every element on your property does more than one thing.
That's really it. That's really it. And I like to take it farther than just your property, though. I like to take it to your life. Yeah, and I talk about this a lot. The smartphones of these days, these are so great at stacking functions. What don't they do? I mean, literally, you could set it up to make you coffee in the morning, to start your coffee maker. It'll give you directions. So conceptually, a smartphone is the ultimate stacking function machine because it does so many things. I pulled the compass out the other day, and I used the compass. And so for me, I try and get beyond my garden with stacking functions. Trip stacking is an example that I use a lot. You don't go to the grocery store and then come home and then go to the drugstore. You go one to the next, and then home, right? So in transportation planning, that's actually called trip stacking.
Yes.
So you can apply this notion of stacking functions many places in your life.
Yes, and I think we already understand this in the other things in our lives, but I had never applied it to my garden.
Perfect. Yeah.
But one of the ways that we stack functions is this, and I'll just give you an example. We had chickens, we had a compost pile, we had a garden. They were all in separate areas of my yard.
Oh.
And the chickens never interacted with the compost pile.
Oh, yeah, you definitely want to do that.
And the chickens didn't interact with the garden either.
Yep.
But now we've put those three elements together. So the chickens do the composting for me.
Perfect.
So I throw my compostable materials either into my lasagna garden or into my chicken coop.
Perfect.
If it's edible to chickens, it goes in the coop.
Yep.
They scratch through it. They eat some. They pre-compost it for me. They make chicken manure, which is a great garden amendment. They scratch through the pile. They turn the pile. They find bugs in the pile. That gives them some protein for their diet, and also keeps the bugs out of the rest of my property. Yep. So many ways that these chickens can interact. And the chickens have more than one function now. They're making eggs. Right. And they're compost producers. Right. And sometimes they get to go into the garden and clean up the garden bed, clean up the bugs.
A little bit of fertilizer in. Yep.
Yeah, so they do quite a lot of things, and they do even more than that on the farm. Now that we're thinking about it, we're always thinking about
stacking functions.
Stacking functions.
Exactly.
Yep.
That is the single biggest thing that we can do. Actually, it's the second single biggest thing we can do. The first single biggest thing we can do is eliminate waste 100%. The second thing is figure out how to make these connections, because the more connections that we make, the stronger the system is.
Yes, and the easier it is.
Yeah, and the easier it is. That is so true.
Yeah, so here's my husband in our chicken coop just sifting out some compost to take to the garden.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good system, and it grows great vegetables. So we've had some challenges on our farm, but despite those challenges, we've also had a whole lot of successes. And if you are doing some urban farming and you have some successes that you want to share with us, please post those in the question area. I'd love to see what some of your successes have been on your farm. Despite the fact that we didn't plan well, that it cost us some extra money and time, and that we just didn't understand what we were doing up front. Yeah. We have had milk, eggs, meat, and a lot of veggies and fruits.
Wow, of course.
On the property. So that's been one of the major upsides. We learned how to process meat. Now, this isn't for everybody.
This is not for everybody.
No. And some people would philosophically or just nutritionally be against meat. And that's fine. And I know there are some people out there that is their way of doing things, which is great.
Well, I'm interestingly enough, so I'm mostly vegetarian. Here at home, we eat vegetarian anymore. And about 5 years ago, I took on raising some meat chickens and turkeys here in the backyard at the urban farm. And I raised them from fuzzy little chicks to butchering them on my plate so that I would know what that process was like. And interestingly enough, that process had me be more of a vegetarian.
Yes, and I will tell you that it really makes you stop and think about where meat comes from.
Exactly.
And the value of it.
Yep.
There's more of a value than a monetary value.
Exactly.
And we eat less meat at home now, because if we're going to produce it or if we're going to buy humanely raised and organically raised meat, that's much more expensive. And so we eat much less of it.
Yeah.
But just in spite of being squeamish about processing meat, I learned how to do it. But I also learned how to give injections and assist with deliveries of baby goats.
Oh, I was going to say, what, mail deliveries and UPS deliveries? No, baby goat deliveries.
I assisted with kidding.
Interesting.
And with some of our lambs as well. I learned how to give medical treatment to our livestock. Really key, if you're going to have livestock, to have an understanding of some of the things that are going to be required of you beforehand, so that you don't have this chicken that has become your beloved pet and suddenly it's sick and you don't know what to do or who to ask. Yeah. That's a terrible position to be in. And what it could end up happening is that you end up going to the vet and paying $100 for a chicken when it might have been something that you could have just fixed at home. Yeah. Right? And so get a little bit of background knowledge. It's a big piece of advice, and have some things in place beforehand. So if you're planning on processing meat, have a plan. How are we going to do this? Who's going to teach us to do this? Or who is going to do this for us before you get there? We got turkeys, and I didn't realize how fast they grew.
Oh, my gosh, yes.
I knew how fast they grew, but I hadn't experientially understood it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and so when it got to be October, and then I was panicking about, are we going to process these ourselves, or are we going to find somebody? And it was very stressful. Yeah. Yeah, and we got through it, and we did it, but it would have been much more pleasant for all involved if we had a plan in place to do that. We have phone numbers in our hip pocket now of people that we can call, friends who are knowledgeable about things, who can help us, people who can do blood draws for us if we need them on the goats. Yep. And so now that we have that, things are a lot easier and have a lot more peace of mind.
Right.
But we did not have that in the beginning.
I have a very exciting piece of information to share that's connected with kind of data around this. The Urban Farm is actually introducing a 3-day-a-week podcast. It'll be out here in the next couple of weeks. You'll all get an email about it. But I interviewed Lisa Steele, and she has a website called Fresh Eggs Daily.
Yes.
FreshEggsDaily.com.
Great website.
It is a great website, and she wrote a book called Fresh Eggs Daily: Raising Happy, Healthy Chickens, ... naturally. And it looks like an incredible book. My copy hasn't arrived yet. It looks like an absolutely incredible book. And she's really, really knowledgeable on communicating how to care for your chicken. So we had a chicken last week here at the Urban Farm that started wheezing. Mm-hmm. And where did Heidi go? Fresh Eggs Daily. Yeah, exactly. Went to her website. So Heidi has this list of, for us here at the house, we just have hens that lay eggs. So they're our pets, and we don't ever butcher them. And Heidi has this list of go-to places when a symptom occurs. And I'll tell you what, we got a product called VetRx.
Yes.
It's a natural camphor product, and within 24 hours, the chicken was well.
Yeah, it's pretty much good for everything.
Yeah.
Everything external on an animal.
Got it.
VetRx takes care of it.
Got it. Yeah. So, well, and we were actually dropping some of it in her mouth, and it fixed it. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, so you don't have to be butchering meat to have that, have those systems in place for yourself.
Mm-hmm. That's the truth.
Yes,
if you've got quail, if you've got chickens, if you've got animals just for milk,
rabbits.
Yeah, rabbits. Have a list. Do use the internet. Get a list of websites and places where you can ask questions or where you can find answers. And also, I would recommend asking around and finding a good vet. And if you ask people also who raise the same animals that you want to raise, they may also have people who will just come over who are experienced who will help you with things.
Well, the cool thing is, just in the past 3 or 4 years, this notion of doing all of this is exploding, and there's all kinds of people out there. There's all kinds of people out there. So that can help with this, and they're interested in in your communities. We have a couple of Facebook pages that have sprouted up and exploded here in the Phoenix area for gardening and chicken keeping and like that, just in the past year, that have thousands of members on them. Yes. So, there's resources out there. That's a great place to go. Facebook, we have a local, chicken keeping Facebook page for Phoenix, Maricopa County. I don't know what the name of it is. I'm involved, I'm on it. And
yeah, we've got groups for chickens, goats, sheep, pigs, whatever you're raising.
Food sharing. There's Eliza's website that it's
Veggie Exchange.
Veggie Exchange. Oh yeah, all of these resources are out there. So just pay attention to what's out there.
Yeah, that's right. And also your local 4-H and Future Farmers of America. If you go and volunteer a few hours of your time, would be invaluable to you, because if you're a volunteer, they're going to be really, really willing to help you with your own stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They might even just do it if you don't volunteer.
No kidding.
But, give them a few hours of your time.
I do notice that people are shooting in questions here, and as we thank you for the questions, everybody. If one is appropriate, I see it appropriate to fit it in, I'll do it. Otherwise, we'll catch them at the end.
Mm-hmm. Our children sell eggs, and they also sell point-of-lay hens. So a point-of-lay hen is just a bird that's been raised from a chick to the point in her life right before she's ready to lay eggs. So about 4 to 5 months old.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so our children have raised those and sold them. They provide milking services so farmers can go on vacation. In fact, my daughter Emily's standing right next to me right now.
Thumbs up, both thumbs up.
Yeah, she's doing that this weekend for a neighbor.
So very good.
Yeah. So they're learning about business and what it takes to have a business, and also the benefits of having a business.
Nice.
Our sheep and goats, boy, did they multiply. I'd have to go back and look at my records. I had to keep really meticulous records to keep it all straight. But we had 3 goats, and over a number of years, you know, those goats would have babies every year because we bred them.
There you go.
And they'd have twins. They'd have triplets. We had so many cute baby goats running around our property. And then our sheep, too, also. They multiplied. So, lots of baby animals. And that was wonderful. We absolutely enjoyed having them on our property. And then when it was time to sell them, they were registered, and so we would sell them and make a profit off of selling those animals to other people so that they could enjoy having the goats on their property too. Food is growing like crazy on our property. Right now, we have stuff just everywhere growing, and our garden club came over last night, and we harvested a bunch of things, and man, this is the time of year in Phoenix.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so our plants are all big and happy and enjoying the cool weather. Now, I know many of you, this is the time of year where you kind of hunker down in the garden, right? You don't really do a lot, but here, this is our prime time. Our farm is gradually becoming more sustainable. We're shifting over to more permaculture techniques and
let me just jump in here real quick. We mentioned this notion of permaculture multiple times. I want to define a couple of things, if that's okay. So permaculture, we've mentioned a permaculture design course. A permaculture design course is a 72-hour course. We do it here in Phoenix and in Tucson over 5 weekends, and it's a process by which you learn permaculture design. And permaculture design, look up the word on the internet, was developed by a gentleman named Bill Mollison in the early 70s. And I like to call permaculture the art and science of working with nature. So what we do is, rather than fighting nature in permaculture, we look how we can step into the flow and work into the flow of nature. So how do we put systems in place on our property that become self-replicating? There's many things here at the urban farm that just replant themselves year after year after year. There's
Right, yeah. So you said you have many things on your property that replant themselves.
Yes.
Now that's regenerative, regenerating.
Yes.
So you plant something in your garden that will either live for a long time and produce for a long time, like a
fruit tree. And we have a fruit tree question from Stephanie, which I'm going to get to.
Okay. Or you plant things that will reseed themselves so that they essentially plant themselves again for the next season.
Yeah, exactly.
And you don't have to do it. What is the fruit tree question that you have?
Well, we'll dive into that because it's a bigger question than just fit in this room.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and get through this, and then we'll touch on that question.
Okay. So we're always looking for ways that things can be regenerative like that, which saves us work, it saves money, and it's great for the environment. And in this picture here, this is my husband showing a group of people our laundry to landscape system.
Oh, nice.
So now our laundry becomes more of a regenerative process because we do take water from the city and we wash our clothes with it. But instead of sending it down the drain, we send it out to our landscape to water. And the soap we use, instead of having soap that degrades the environment, we use soap that actually becomes nutrient source.
Isn't that cool? It's called biocompatible soap, Oasis biocompatible soap, and it becomes fertilizer.
Right. So that's so cool because now I'm not being no pun intended, a laundry to landscape's not a drain on the environment.
Oh, that's bad.
It's actually doing something useful for the environment.
Nice.
And so we're trying to think in those ways in our
big
yard.
Time.
And, you know, our farm is becoming more sustainable on our pocketbook. So we have this goat here on the right-hand side. His name's Casanova. And he doesn't make milk. He's a male. And he smells funny.
Oh, yeah, they do smell funny, don't they?
He's kind of ornery. But he makes money on the farm because he's a blue-eyed registered goat.
Oh.
And so not only does he get to be the father of all the babies born to our goats on the property, but he also
gets to go out and
gets to have girlfriends come and visit him. So we make some money off of breeding services. Yeah, so he has a job. Right? So he's not just an eating machine. He has a job on the farm, and that really helps to offset the cost of the feed. And, and then we have him there to enjoy. Which is,
when you do this, you have to make sure that you consider what your feed costs, because it can get, right now we're spending $80 a month on chicken feed.
And you're feeding organic feed.
And we're feeding organic feed.
Yeah, which is a little more expensive than conventional, regular old feed.
Right.
So, yeah, you need to think about that.
Yeah, make sure that you're paying attention to that, yes.
Yep. Here is, Greg, our fodder system.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, so we started just got some seed, and we started just growing it. And these are a little bit too tall. We learned that if you just sprout the seed and let it grow an inch or two, it's actually better.
Oh, and then you just feed it to them that way?
And just feed it to them that way. And it triples the nutrient value of the seed.
No.
Yes.
Oh, wow. All right, cool. I didn't know that. That was a real surprise for me.
Just
like,
by adding a little bit of water.
Wow.
Right? And even if you can just soak your grains overnight, it increases the nutrient value.
Right.
You know, we do that in our kitchen with rice and beans and any grains that we eat. We soak them beforehand.
So there's something enzymatically that happens, enzymes kick in, and
yes. Well, from a gardening standpoint of view, Greg, you know, when we start seeds, we don't fertilize when we plant the seed. No, because the seed contains all the nutrient it needs for the first growth.
Right.
That nutrient value can become a nutrient value for our bodies or for our animals' bodies.
Right.
If we just start that germination process by soaking or even slightly sprouting.
Right. And so what kind of seeds are these that you're sprouting?
You can do oats, you can do rye, you can do any kind of seed.
And where do you get the seed from?
The feed store.
The feed store. All right, cool. So check your local feed store. Fantastic.
And there's all kinds of information. If you look up fodder systems online, lots of information.
Got it. All right, cool.
And we teach others. So this is a recent raised bed garden demonstration. We make a little money sometimes teaching, and other times we just do it for free.
Yeah.
And it increases the value of our farm.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly. I want to throw this question here because it's pertinent here, and I want to expand the question. The question is, did you ever have issues with neighbors regarding your animals? And this is the reason it's pertinent here is because on this slide right here, this is your front yard garden.
Yes, it is.
So I want to address neighbors and animals and gardening and that kind of stuff during this slide.
Yeah, okay, so we do have this garden club that meets in our front yard. And our neighbors have no problem with our front yard garden. But we do keep it looking nice. Right here, it's got some shade cloth on it, not looking so nice. But I make sure I communicate with my neighbors. I say, hey, we're going to throw this shade cloth up. It's only going to be here for a little while, and then it will be gone again. This isn't forever. We really try to communicate and also invite our neighbors into what is happening. So if a neighbor comes over to chat and asks me a question, I make sure I spend some time with them. And show them around, show them what's growing, show them, hey, if you need basil, here's where it is. Come over and cut it if you need it. Here's where the thyme is. You can have some. You know, if you need an onion, this is where they are. Just come get it. That's why it's out here in the front for you. Right. So
that's a big piece right there.
Yep. And taking the neighbor's eggs once in a while doesn't hurt. Communicate with them. Make them part of it. You know, one way we've stacked functions is we can invite neighbor kids over, and they're fun to have over, but they also will pick my weeds. If I tell them that ram over there, Oliver, loves weeds, go get some and feed them to him.
Yes. How good is that? That is stacking functions at its finest.
Yeah. And the kids love it. They think that's great. I get the weeds picked.
Yeah.
And Oliver's happy. He gets some treats. Yeah. And then the neighbors are also happy, and they feel like they're part of what we're doing.
Exactly.
Now we make sure we keep it clean.
Right. That's the big thing. It needs to be nice looking in the front. If you have it in the front yard, it needs to be nice looking. Right. That's a big piece of it.
And not too noisy.
Right.
I don't have guinea hens, even though I would love to have a guinea hen because they're very noisy. Yeah, okay. And I wouldn't want to subject my neighbors to that. Yeah. So just thinking about those kinds of things helps.
So I've been doing tours here at the Urban Farm now for 15 years, and you know, on a really busy tour day, there'll be 200 people that come to tour. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of cars on our street. Right. So I've been, you know, fairly open with my neighbors. I, you know, communicate with them. Also, 16 years ago, I started a fruit tree program. And every year I offer people on my street free fruit trees. Yeah. You know, we're having a happy hour in the front yard here in the next month or so. And I put a flyer out the other day, letting people know that our Urban Fruit Tree Day at the Urban Farm is November 7th. And, you know, come by and get your free fruit tree if you want one. Mm-hmm. So, you know, call it bribery if you want, but it's including them, and it's, you know, making sure that they have, you know, they're plugged into this. And the lady across the street, she was so funny. She came to me about, I don't know, a year ago, and she said, "Hey, this friend of mine started telling me about this place called the Urban Farm." And she got all.
Have you ever heard of it?
Have you ever? And she got all puffed up and got this great big smile on her face because she's communicating this with me. She said, "Yeah, they're my neighbors." She was so proud that the Urban Farm was her neighbor. Yes. So that's the wave that's happening. And this was thank you for whoever asked that question. This is a really, really important piece. If we can get our neighbors on board, that's huge. And my thing is, what if there were 10,000 urban farms in Phoenix? Because I want an urban farm on every street so that we have food on every street for everybody.
Right. Maybe 2 or 3 of them on every street.
That would be great.
Yeah. I got a story, too, about a neighbor.
Oh, please.
So in elementary school, there were some children in the school who were, one of my daughters didn't get along with them very well. Uh-huh. And they ended up moving to our cul-de-sac.
Oh, my God. And there's like 6 houses on your cul-de-sac.
Yes, and we had a little bit of problem between the kids. And and so we weren't on very great terms with these neighbors. Right? So around that time, we were having a tour.
Oh, nice.
And I sent out a flyer to all the neighbors saying, "Hey, we're doing this tour. Here's what's happening, and we invite you. Yeah. You know, you are welcome to come."
Yes, absolutely.
This is actually tour de coupe, so there was a cost involved in the tour that went to the Valley Permaculture Alliance. Right. But I told them they could come. They didn't need a ticket. They were on a comp list. Okay. To come in for free.
Perfect.
So lo and behold, these neighbors show up.
Nice.
And they didn't even know that we were doing an urban farm in our backyard.
Oh, my gosh.
Because we didn't communicate very well with them previously, and they wanted to do urban farming. So all of a sudden, the conversation opened up, and we talked and talked and talked.
Around food. Hello.
Yeah, and we never had a problem since.
Nice.
Never.
Nice.
In fact, it's been a pleasure to have them on the street. So things can really change with an urban farm.
So I know that was a long-winded answer, but this is a really, really big, important issue. And so there's really a couple of things happening. Make sure that you keep it nice looking in the front yard, and just, you know,
smells good.
Smells good, looks nice, no noises, and, you know, be friendly. Share with people. People love to talk about food.
Yes, they absolutely do. And so, you know, we're winding up the last few slides in the presentation. We have lots of questions, but our farm has come a long way. This is just a playhouse that we had that
love this.
Ended up getting turned into a chicken coop and all of this.
Sweet.
So, see, when people come in our backyard, sometimes it's hard to imagine that there was nothing there at one point.
Right, exactly.
There was, but it took us years. We didn't do this overnight.
How long have you been there?
We've been in that house for 18 years.
18 years?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So when you start your urban farm, you don't have to do everything all at once.
Mm-hmm.
Just do one thing.
Yeah.
And do that well, and then add on.
Yeah, perfect.
Yes. And so here's the front yard.
I love that.
Angle. Start really simply with, like I just said, just one thing.
Is that you?
That's me. A number of years ago,
right,
a little bit younger. And you know, if you just start with something that really interests you the most, and do that.
Yeah.
Make a plan. That's the big thing that we did not do, is we did not make a very good plan. So this is just a photo at the Phoenix Urban Research Farm where we were doing some planning for that big farm.
Oh, perfect. Yes.
But it's the same thing on your property. You got to do some planning for your small farm and really think through the elements that you want to include and where they should go, how they can work together, how they can support each other. Like, can you grow something in your garden to feed one of the animals? And like we grow greens that feed our rabbits, and then our rabbits produce manure, which goes back into the garden, and they support each other.
Stacking functions.
How can you arrange it so that it's easy? You know, don't do like we did. I put in a door into our chicken coop that was only 4 feet tall. I don't know why.
Oh my gosh, really?
We ended up replacing it because it's such a pain. I was just thinking, you know, a small door to go under and get in there. I didn't think about needing to get a wheelbarrow in there occasionally and all that stuff. So, you know, make things easy. Put good latches on things so that you don't have to fight with them.
Yeah.
You know, have good gates. Have nice pathways. Make it easy, because if you're going to be taking care of a garden or animals every day, small inconveniences add up and make it no fun.
Big time.
So make it as easy on yourself right from the beginning as you can.
Yep.
Yes, and get lots of ideas and knowledge. Go visit farms. Go visit people who are doing this. Take classes. This is us visiting Wendell Crow out at Crow's Dairy and learning all about goats from him and his lovely wife, Rhonda. They were really kind to us and shared all kinds of information with us. And, you know, we learned so much that we wish we'd known before we even ever got to goats.
Well, and here's the thing. Take a class, and I guarantee you, well, especially for all of our classes, I guarantee you that you're going to make exponentially more by not making mistakes. Yeah. You're going to save, if you spend $50 or $100 or take one of our free classes, you're going to save that in the mistakes that you don't make.
That's right. That's exactly right. See, here Wendell just showed us how he feeds the goats through a fence. And it just revolutionized how we were feeding our goats because we had so much waste. And he just showed us a simple thing.
Yep.
You can learn a lot from people who have gone before you.
Yeah, exactly.
Do something simple like creating a no-dig lasagna garden. I talk about this a lot because I think it's really cool and I like to do it. This isn't a class about that. It's just a picture to show you what it is. But if you want to know what it is, Google it because there's lots of information out there.
Sheet mulching and lasagna gardening. All right, so that was a little bit of rumbling from the greenhouse coming through, if you heard it. I can see the drill through the window working right next to me. Nice.
So think outside the box. You know, you don't have to do a raised bed garden in a box. You can grow food in containers. Do something simple like that just to get started. If you can't have chickens or turkeys, get some quail. They create eggs and they're considered a pet. Right, so if you live in an apartment that allows pet birds, you can have a Coturnix or Japanese quail.
You can have quail, and you can actually, if you want to, you can eat them for meat. But they produce a lot of eggs.
Yes, they do.
Emily's shaking her head. No, not for meat. Why? Because they're so cute. Yeah, because they're so cute. Yeah, I know. I'm like I said, I'm mostly vegetarian here, so I understand that completely. So
these are some quail right here that we had. And on the left, these are some silky chickens, or as Justin Rohner of Agriscaping calls them.
I love this.
Tropical jungle fowl.
Yeah, if you live in an HOA, you might find that keeping birds is okay, but keeping chickens is not. So he calls them tropical jungle fowl, and now other people in his HOA are keeping tropical jungle fowl.
Yeah, so there's a lot of chicken breeds that don't look like a standard chicken, and they're used for show birds. So you could have some show birds in your backyard instead of some chickens, for sure. I'm not telling you to break your HOA rules, by the way. I'm just letting you know what some people do. Give everyone a job. So we talked about our chickens and how they compost, and so this is how the chickens and the garden and the compost all work together, just in a visual layout.
Well, this is also stacking functions again.
Yes, it is.
If everybody has a job, there's that's the stacking functions happening again.
Yeah. So the chickens get scraps from the gardens, and that cuts our feed cost and gives them something else to eat other than feed, which creates better eggs. They create compost, which goes back into the garden, which creates more vegetables, which go back to the chickens. It's just
I love that.
It's just a circular process, and it works beautifully. Everybody has a job. Even these retired show rabbits, they make poop, right?
Right.
They make manure, which is a great garden amendment. So my husband sometimes says, "Why do we have these retired show rabbits here?" Well, they're fun, but they also make fertilizer. Yeah. And be mindful of your neighbors. We talked about this already. Make it neat and attractive. Most city ordinances, Greg, are complaint-driven.
Right.
There's not really people going around and looking for these things. They're all driven by one neighbor gets upset with another and reports them to the city. Exactly.
So 99 times out of 100, you're never going to have a problem. And, for that 1% of that 1% of the time, make friends with your neighbors.
Yeah. And if you're going to build pens or housing structures for animals, just keep them below that fence line.
Below the fence line?
Or, if they're going to be above the fence line, make sure they look nice. Maybe put some foliage around them so there's a bit of camouflage.
Yeah.
Build some margin into your plan.
Oh, my gosh. Is that you?
Yeah,
that's Emily.
This is Emily, who's standing next to me here. And that's Eleanor and Oliver in the background. And, you've got to have time to rest. Don't set up a farm that requires you to be out there 24/7 on your weekends.
Yeah.
And not have any time to do
Emily's
anything
so funny. She's
else.
shaking her head and smiling halfway and doing across her forehead like, yeah, I need to rest.
Yeah. Don't get yourself strapped financially. Make sure you have a little bit of money put aside for in case you have an emergency with an animal or if they need something. Make sure you have a little bit of margin, or leeway is another word for that.
Yeah.
Have some backup plans and don't put too many animals in your yard either. That was a mistake I made.
Oh, yeah.
Too many.
Yeah, too many.
We were just enjoying them so many. I just started collecting, and then people started bringing them to me, And we had to draw a line somewhere. But most of all, just do it. Just get out there,
do something.
Do it. Despite all the mistakes we made, I think it's been an invaluable experience for our entire family. And one I wouldn't trade, really, for anything.
Right. Oh, yeah, that is so the case. Question. So let's go ahead and go over the contact information for people who want to get a hold of you. And you really need to tell us about your book, too. I want to hear about that because that is cool.
Yeah. So I do have a book that is coming out, but, boy, patience, because it's not coming out until December 2016.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so a year, but it's going to be called City Farming, and it has a really long title other than that, but that hasn't been nailed down to the final.
All right, perfect.
So, but it's a book all about just what we talked about here today. What are some of the issues and problems that can come up for urban farmers, and how do urban farmers get around them? How do they solve them? How do they turn those problems into actually solutions? Yeah, so you can learn a little bit more about the book at cityfarmingbook.com. It's a brand new website. It doesn't have a whole lot of content on it yet, but it is coming little by little.
And people can go and sign up to get a newsletter from you.
Yes.
And notices on your book, right?
That's correct, and we'll be posting the prologue to the book very, very soon.
Ooh.
So you can get an idea of what it's going to be, the tone of the book, and what it's going to be like.
Nice. I'm so excited for you about that. That is a rock star move on your part. Good job. Well, especially how so I got to say this, especially how they found you. They found you. They're in the United Kingdom,
yes,
and they're reading your blog, right?
Right.
Oh my gosh, that's rock star. That is rock star as far as I'm concerned.
Well,
so.
it was surprising to me when they gave me the call, but I'm very excited to be part of the project. Yeah.
Yay.
You can also check out our farm at the microfarmproject.com. I'm on Facebook at micro.farm.project, on Twitter and Instagram at micro_farm.
Go like her Microfarm page on Facebook. She pops these memes, these little picture things up that are just a riot. You guys do such a great job of those. They make me laugh when I read them.
Oh, thanks. They're fun to make, too. So.
Yeah.
So that's where you can get a hold of me.
Perfect.
But for now,
perfect. We got lots of questions.
We
got lots of questions.